issues facing Tennesseans today. From 10 News, this is Inside Tennessee.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm John North, sitting in this morning for John Becker. If you need a license plate, if you need a driver's license, or if you need a marriage license, this is a show that affects you. Our guests want to be the next Knox County clerk. It's a job with 6 offices and 86 employees. They handle thousands of plate and license renewals, not to mention lots of wedded bliss. Welcome this morning to Roger Kane and Sherry Witt. We'll visit with you in just a minute, but let me go ahead and introduce to you our panelists this morning. There, guarding the flank is Don Bosch. He's a Democrat and an attorney here in East Tennessee.
Good morning. Glad to have an upgraded host.
Absolutely. Don't tell JV that. And Susan Richardson-Williams, good morning. Always a pleasure to have you.
Good morning.
Republican and public relations expert.
Thank you.
All right, so Roger and Sherry, welcome. We're glad to have you. It is indeed very serious, the task of that job. And we wanted to sort of talk to you a little bit about why you want to do it. You both are already politicians. You've been elected to office. Sherry, a Register of Deeds, and have been for 10 years. And Roger, you were first elected in 2012 to the State House. So why this job? Let's start with you, Roger.
Well, when I first got elected, I was asked, how many times will you run for office? And I told people, about 6 years. I think government's kind of like compost. You know, it needs to be turned over every so often. Yeah, otherwise, it begins to stink and start to have issues.
Sometimes sooner rather than later.
Correct. So when people ask me, I said, you know, about 6 years is about a good time. You know, the first 2 years in office, you really somewhat don't know what you're doing. You're probably more of a hazard than not. And then the next couple years, you kind of get in, and then you make the way to others. I've always believed people in my district were smarter and capable than sometimes I am. I've never had all the answers in the world, but I'm willing to work twice as hard to find them. So when I made that commitment to run 3 terms, I've kept my word. You know, when you're in the Capitol, people will tell you, oh, you can't leave. You are the best, whatever. This place has run for 200 plus years without me. It'll run for 200 more when I'm gone. So I've made that commitment. I made it last year and, you know, made the decision to come home. When I looked at the different county offices, Foster Arnett is term limited. We have term limits here in Knox County. We had them in '94. They really didn't quite get implemented until about 2007. But, you know, we've had term limits here. And I think term limits mean you serve 2 terms and then you move on. Now, what that means can sometimes be left up to interpretation. But in my eyes, it means 2 terms and then go on to another job somewhere in the public sector. I've been an insurance agent for 30 plus years, and I've had to make payroll. I've had to, you know, pay for employees' taxes and benefits and stuff. And so I know what exceptional customer service looks like, because the world of insurance is pretty static. We all sell cars. We all sell, you know, home insurance. It's about the experience. And so that's one of the things I want to bring to the clerk's office is look at ways to make the experience for the consumer who's coming in absolutely the top notch that it can be.
And Sherry, what about you?
Well, when one moves to a new state, one of the first elected officials they encounter is the registrar or the recorder. In the state of Tennessee, those duties are divided. We have a Register of Deeds and we have a clerk. I've been fortunate enough to be elected Register of Deeds. For that, I appreciate the people of this county, and they have put confidence in me. I have turned over $5.5 million in excess fees since I've been in office. I've lowered my budget every year that I've been in office. I say that not to pat myself on the back, but to say that's what I promised to do. That's what I told the people of this county that I would do, and that's what I've done. So I think I can take that experience and that education that Knox County has given me and make a better office, or maybe the best office in the Knox County Clerk's office.
So I'm sort of considered the resident contrarian here. And since I'll be voting in the Democrat primary, I'll vote for neither of you until I see the winner in the general. And I consider both of you friends, but there's a criticism probably leveled at each of you I want to just bring out. Sherry, Roger sort of mentioned it, we have term limits.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people that are troubled, that a number of politicians, not just you, and to a lesser degree certainly Roger, because he's been an elected official, but not one that's term limited, that just bounce from job to job and sort of defeat the philosophical purpose of term limits. How would you address that criticism?
I would say that, you know, we all understand term limits and what term limits mean.
Well, no, we all don't. You might.
No, well,
Knox County
okay. We have been living under the rule of term limits for a while now, and so we do understand them. And it means it's not a death sentence. It means to move on. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Roger and I have a lot of similarities. We both held public office before. This is my second office that I've tried for. This will be Roger's fourth. So there's other things. Neither one of us are considered politicians. I certainly don't think I'm a politician. My forte is being a public servant.
Well, Roger, and the criticism with you is you have been in the state legislature.
Yes, sir.
Very different role than serving as a county clerk. Which is much more of an ministerial function, a bunch of employees you have to deal with. I know you've been in the private sector, but a lot of folks grow weary of, well, I know how to run a private business, and they learn when they get into government, running government is not like running private business. So what kind of experience do you think you can bring? Because on Sherry's behalf, she certainly has a relevant like experience as Register of Deeds, and so it's going to be, were she to win, a fairly easy transition managing the same kinds of people. How are you going to overcome maybe a deficiency in having done that in the past?
You know, being in the private sector, back in Texas where I came from originally, I moved here 22 years ago. I was running an office in 5 different cities with 15 different employees, handling a multi-million-dollar budget. So I already understand how to make people in satellite offices feel inclusive, which is a challenge. How do you get the standard of service the same in all locations? I'm already there. I'm currently in the MPPA program at UTK. I don't think education ever stops. And so I've decided to re-enter the world of education to make myself not only a better business owner, but also a more professional. I will be up to date with the current standards. We have organizations like CTAS and MTAS who can help fill in the gaps, and Sherry's been a part of these things for years too. So the fee offices were set up that you need to be a great manager, and then they have they have institutions available to help you with the procedures and policies and stuff like that. So, you know, I think I'm ready to go. I have every confidence that once in office, you'll see a totally different, it will not be the county standard that we've had in years past. It'll be something very different and exceptional.
Do you think Foster Arnett's not done a good enough job with customer service?
I think Foster's done a fine job, but everybody needs to look at county office. In fact, when Foster took over, the county was running, everybody was saying everything was great. Foster starts looking at things and he goes, well, why do we pay for people to get a day off on their birthday? And why do we pay for people to go Christmas shopping? This was county standard business. And Foster said, no private sector person does that. So that benefit was eliminated. I think there's a problem when you get city-county think going on in your head. Well, everybody else is doing it in the county. I must be able to do this too. That is a wrong thinking mentality. And it takes a set of eyes from outside the city-county building to bring those glaring errors to light.
We want to hear what Sherry Witt has to say in response to that question as well, but it's time to make a little money and take a pause. You're watching Inside Tennessee. Please join us after this break.